this content is for kids.
It's not for kids.
Isn't that what I said?
No, it's not for kids. If you are 13 years or younger, this is not for you. Do I have to kill somebody in order to actually make that point across?
No, man, you don't have to kill
Wait
no
a
one.
second.
Oh, no.
When we return to our planet, the High Court may well sentence you to torture.
He likes movies, we like movies. SeptumSin versus the world. SeptumSin versus the world. SeptumSin versus the world. SeptumSin versus the world. I'd buy that for $1.
Greetings! You're watching SeptumSin versus the world. I'm SeptumSin. I actually completed a milestone today. I finished the entire Naruto series. With the exception of Boruto, because that's still going on. And I made a debate. I said to myself, should I hold on this retrospective until Boruto is done? And I said, well, if I do that, it'll be another like 4 to 5 years, so why not simply mark this occasion? Because this is a huge milestone. This has been years in the making. When I was first introduced to this series, I was in early college. I was in grad school, and I was told about this, like, oh look, there's this really cool series out. You can't get it anywhere else because it's just only in Japan, but it's circulating. There's a lot of fan subs out. You should check it out. And I was saying, okay, well, I guess. So I went online, and back then it was a lot more difficult to get anime than it is now. And I found like these discs, and I don't have them anymore because they're kind of, they're not exactly legal. But because the series was not licensed in the United States, it didn't really matter as much. It had quite a number of episodes on it. And I remember my first viewing was almost all night, because I watched all the way from the beginning to the end of the whole bridge saga where they fight Zabuza for the first time. I loved it. It was a really great shonen series because it wasn't all about one person. It was about a group. It wasn't like, Dragon Ball Z with Goku being pretty much the only real character, with the others just being his backup dancers. And when it opened up, it was just a whole new world for me. So, that was the other thing. When it hit the Chunin exam arc, I was even more impressed because it was just so much to absorb. There were so many different characters that came about. So many cool figures like Rock Lee, Gaara, Kiba. These characters just impressed me so much that in a series, the background characters could have a strength of their own far beyond something like a DBZ. Or in the more comical nature that Ranma had them. No, cat, you're not jumping on those. No. So, with that being said, it was even a happier day when I found out it was coming to America. I had already gotten into the manga a little bit, And then I found out it was being dubbed into English. It was coming to Cartoon Network. So many cool things. So nobody was more eager than I to dive right back into the series with this volume. And these volumes were pretty cool for the original. I mean, you had your storyboards and artwork that got you through most of this series. I'm not going to go through each of these, though I will show the cover art, but because otherwise we'll be here all day. Because this is a massive undertaking. So, eventually, as I'm like to do, I had... what's the word? I had continued working on this series for a while, rewatching it when it came out in America as it came out. But, of course, I had to watch it as it aired. I had signed up for a channel called Naruto Fan, which eventually also led me to being introduced to other series like Shinobudan, and just a number of others that many people would know today. Bleach being another example. It just opened up my world to anime. So I owe Naruto a lot in that regard. I mean, there wasn't a lot of, like I said, there wasn't a lot of resources like there are now. There wasn't a ton of stuff on the DVD market. It was just opening up. And Naruto, I think, was one of those series that helped open up this. So Volume 2. Nope. Volume 3. All these little shiny boxes. 4. And, let's see here. This was starting the Chunin exam arc. 5. Rasengan. And of course you've got Gaara on this picture here. Again, Chunin exam went on for a long period. And these were like 13 episode blocks. I want to say 13 episode maybe. Yeah, 13 episode blocks. So we're talking a lot of space in your collection. Now they re-released this again in bigger blocks, like 20 to 30 episode blocks. But still. And as we go on, we get to continue with all of these. Again, I'm just going to go through each of these for the time being, but I have a reason. Let's see here. So, this is the volume where things really picked up, where you had that climactic battle we were all waiting for between Sasuke and Naruto. Or Naruto, or however you want to say it. We always said Naruto because, again, early on. It wasn't like many people have these days who have seen anime and this stuff has already been established. It's just, again, you had to get it how you could, and there was no English dub at the original time, so we had to pretty much figure it out ourselves. This also introduced me to something else. I had known a little bit with Inuyasha, but in here it was terrifying. I was watching Naruto as it came out weekly at this time. And this is where the story kind of ends here and then it transitions. There's a storyline called Kakashi Gaiden, and it follows Kakashi's youth back in his time, and Kakashi is sort of like their teacher for that original team. So I was really excited to see that because I'd read it in the manga. Unfortunately for me, this this and this occurred. Look at this. This is what we call filler. It was over a year worth of filler, and Bleach was going through something much of the same. When we knew what awesomeness was to come, this is when I ended up doubling down on reading the manga, which was progressing and pretty awesome. And then we ended up sitting there on just all these little side stories, and there were a few good ones. But when you're watching it week to week, like I was, it's just like when people will say to me with Haruhi Suzumiya, Endless 8 was not so bad. Yeah, but Endless 8 didn't take 8 weeks for you with no development. You could just gun it. This took over a year before we got to see it, when we knew what cool stuff was already ahead. And they were using this time to build up a backlog so they wouldn't have to go into filler. Which we were like, okay, so once it gets into this new thing, then we'll be able to, well, go forward. Now, there were also some pretty cool things going on in the movie scene. Now, I got this originally from Japan. Not this set, but this movie, the original first movie, because it was a big deal. And it had such a terrible translation. Like, Naruto wanted to be, they called him Purple Mandarin, and he wanted to be the Naruto of the village. So, maybe I really should get into what the series is about. I've already been through the first series and haven't even gone into it. It's about ninjas. Ninjas working as a team in this whole universe where, you know, everybody can use this like kind of magic system called ninjutsu. And they are various factions around the world, and they, like any type of warring factions, vie for power. And they do this through missions. Now, this didn't get fully opened up until the Chunin exam. You didn't really get to meet a lot of different countries' ninja. So, it was a really cool structure. Around this time, we had actually been doing our homebrew Naruto RPG. We had our own little ninja teams. We were making up our own jutsu. We were doing a lot of fun stuff. And when this came out, we were all psyched to see it. Unfortunately, we weren't able to see this in theaters. But when I went to Sam Goody, yeah, I know, and I saw this. This is heavy. This heavy steel book. This is probably one of my first steel books. It just like, oh, I can finally get rid of that terrible Chinese one. It's got so much stuffed in it with the books and CDs, it doesn't even close properly. That's how big a deal this is. And this wasn't a bad movie. It's a non-canonical arc, but I'd already seen the end of Team 7, which was Naruto, Sasuke, the traitor guy, and Sakura. And to see another arc where Team 7 was fully together and working together was a big deal for a lot of us. So it was just kind of fun to see this. Because the other movies take place after the whole fight at the end of the original series. Well, I should say end. After like the later midpoint of the the original series. And this one also, they had some pretty cool cases for these two. I mean, this is kind of a medieval battle movie. And then, of course, the third movie, which was alright. I liked it because it had one of my favorite characters, Rock Lee, which I just liked the fact that he was one of these characters that couldn't use all of this ninjutsu. He had to rely purely on his abilities to get by, on his like physical abilities to get by. And I really hated Sasuke, and I still to this day don't see anybody's fascination with Sasuke, the bad boy fascination. So, still, I just like seeing Sasuke put in his place like he was in the Tunics. And of course, you have the special, which also had the, what do they call it? One of the comedic ones where they're doing like the Olympic event or whatever that they're doing, and Naruto has to use the bathroom the entire time. But you get your special Naruto card here for when they had the Naruto card game, which I played briefly. Every series back then had their own card game. So, it's a lot of stuff. So that's really what I consider, and I consider the special part of the movie collection. A lot of the times these Japanese movies and so on for these series, they kind of feel like a part of these types of collections. But alas, we must move on. And finally, after many years of waiting, a new series emerged. Naruto Shippuden. And these nice little thin packs. Again, unfortunately, with 13 episodes. But it was a huge thing for us. Seeing him grow up, we had waited so long. Unfortunately, no Kakashi Gaiden. But that would come in time. And we were just like, yes, they took a full year. This is going to go straight through the manga, and we're going to see some really cool things. To me, yes, it is cool reading the manga, but seeing these battles animated, seeing the battle between Gaara and, whatever his name is, and this guy, animated, it was just, I was waiting to see that. And just seeing the final battle that came afterwards when Naruto came back after all the training, it just was like a huge payoff for us. Unfortunately, the happiness was not to last. As we get through that arc, and we get to Sasuke, where he gets to meet him again, we say, oh, well, I guess we gotta start doing our filler again. After a year of filler, we go into more filler. I had at this time already been doubling down into the manga. By the time I got to this and they finally transitioned to this format, which is kind of single format, I had actually been even slacking off on my collection and watching of the series. I would collect volumes slowly. Maybe a few here, a few there when they were on sale. Sometimes scooping them up for $10 a piece. Sometimes not. Because, to me, some of the time I would come up with some really cool stuff. I mean, there were some really cool battles, like the battle against Pain, and a lot of these other things, but it just wasn't. as I go through all of these. And as I said, some filler was better than others. Because really, really, if you think about it, the story of Naruto is also the story of filler. As sad as it is. Speaking of the pain arc. And that was epic. And it did pull me into the series again fairly briefly when I got to see that animated. Now, one of these in here did finally have the Kakashi Gaiden story. I was very excited about it. That actually did pull me back into the anime for a brief time, more than the pain thing. That's kind of funny that it did, but it did for that. And they would sometimes do these arcs of filler where they would go back in the past again. I was like, well, I've already had enough filler for them in their kid forms. My goodness. Had it really... It just goes to show you, I mean, this part here was getting close to where it was... they were getting ready to round up to the last ninja war, and we're only like halfway through. I mean, we're at 257 here of 500 episodes. Just barely halfway through. So again, I slowed down. I get more. It just, again, a lot of this just ended up being a drag over time. And I kind of just forgot about it and started hitting on other series. By this time, I had actually finished. By this time in the series, I remember I had finished the manga. It had ended. Naruto had ended at that time. So I'm just like, okay. So, when are we going to get at the end there? It's like it ended almost like a full 2 years before we got to see the end of the anime, as far as like DVD release wise. And even then, the end of the anime came much later than the end of the manga. Let's see. Again, more there. So. I mean, you got some cool covers. Now, they did start doing something that I noticed not too long ago, was that sometimes when you get the slipcovers, the slipcover would be different from the main cover of it, which was really cool. I did like that. That was innovative. So, I'm going to stop before I get to the last, 3 to 4 volumes. And I have my reasons for that. Alright. And we're gonna go one more. Woo! This was cool. This was pretty epic. The battle between... I mean, really, Guy shined a lot in that. Where he actually took on one of the main villains, Madara Uchiha, which you'll find later on, with Lee, and it just was really cool to see. So, of course, also, I did get into the movies, and they had their fair share of movies. I mean, this one was pretty cool, because it had a team-up between Naruto and Sasuke again, and they did work very well together when they would team up. Emo Sasuke and, over-passionate Naruto. And, another one that's, again, non-canonical, but these all have some form of epicness to them. Mostly forgettable, but at the same time, still fairly fun. As you can see, they didn't really go as overboard with these as they did with the other. I think that just the length of the series kind of let it go on. So now we get into mismatching order. Like this, The Last. And so this came out almost a year before the end of the anime. And not quite a year, but still it was a decent chunk before the anime ended. Yet this takes place kind of between, if you were going to go from the DVD, it takes place story-wise between, I'd say, volume... don't fall. Volume 37 and 38 of the DVD releases. And still, it's a decent one. It actually wraps up and gives us that story of Naruto finally getting together with the woman that he chooses to be his wife, which I won't. I've had some spoilers for you all, but this has been so long in running. Many of the spoilers should be known by now. It's pretty awesome to see it, to see the kind of love story here. We've been waiting for that. So this one is was a huge marker for me. I was kind of glad to see this. And then, of course, this, which takes place way after and kicks off the new series, which I will talk a little bit about at the end. Well, I finally, more recently, decided I'm going to go ahead and slog through, because unfortunately, more filler happened. It was only about 2 volumes worth, but I'm so tired of the filler. And they could have gone on longer. There was a part where they could have gone through every character and had at least a 1 to 2 episode story. They could have had another 50 to 100 episodes of filler if they wanted. They chose instead just to do 20 some episodes of filler, so I should be happy, I guess. And this here, you gotta love. This cover, so if you were to get this volume, I would expect you would want to have the slipcover, because it's just cool how they do that. And the story kind of ends here. The manga ends at this volume. But it continues on as we do. And I wasn't too bad. I wasn't too unhappy about it, because when I finally got to this, I was extremely happy. You got to see, this is the kind of wedding thing, again, spoilers, where they all prepare for the wedding. And it's, it wraps up the last kind of semi-serious filler storyline that was going with Sasuke. And really just kind of lets you wind down, sort of like an epilogue, so to speak. So, if I was to watch it, I would probably get to this point, watch the last, watch this, and then finally get into Boruto, which I have not read the manga, I have not watched the anime, because this is where we go from here. So Naruto's story is yet to be over. 200 and some episodes of the anime. Let's see here. That for Naruto that we have. Which I'm trying to think if it has the count on here. No. Oh wait, yes it does. Yes it does. 220 episodes of the original series. And another 500 episodes of Shippuden. We have 2 specials. We have 3 movies. And we have another 6, 7 movies, because this is a Naruto movie. And we're still going with Boruto. So the Naruto story is not over just yet. But as far as him being the center, we finally did come to an end. So we are sitting at like over, let's see, almost 800 episodes of material. Now, several friends of mine are like, yeah, but One Piece has over 1,000, so it's better. It's like, is it really? Is having over 1,000 episodes better? But I guess it depends. I mean, I know there are a lot of people who felt like the series ended too soon. And to you all, I have to wonder. But, hey, you've got a heck of a lot of filler you can sit back through and sift through if you really want to get in on it. This has been an epic journey for me. One that spans from my young adulthood into middle age. What's your journey with Naruto? What series has stuck with you for such a long period? Let me know down in the comments below. I hope you've enjoyed this. This is kind of just a rant or a little thing that I just wanted to do just because this is a milestone for me. But I hope you have enjoyed it. And we will conclude on the next one. Goodbye.
Goodbye.